Video games are incredibly popular, and arguably there are none more popular than the games that fall under the war category. When we consider the war genre, we naturally assume headshots, no-scopes, and kill-streaks, the heroes taking on the villains, resulting in the former defeating the latter for the sake of democracy. This War of Mine is nothing of the sort, and that's one of the things I truly enjoyed about it. This War of Mine is a survival simulation game. In a time of war, you take control of a group of civilians randomly generated at the beginning of the game, displaced by the conflict and simply trying to make it out of the other end alive. In this game, the realities of war through the eyes of a civilian are brought to the fingertips of the players, with all of the powerlessness and desperation to boot. With an art style that reflects the grim existence our survivors have to endure, I felt the minimalist approach taken to the game's colour palette appropriate to the content being depicted. From the very beginning, when you're introduced to your initial survivors, I've had 2 and 4 generated for me. You read the opening dialogue and understand your motive: to do whatever it takes to live through the war. Many decisions are a struggle as they often tug at your own morality. For example, do you steal from the elderly couple as the husband begs you not to without threats of violence, only pleas of mercy? Do you give up some medical supplies to a dying man or refuse knowing you may very well need them tomorrow? They're only non-playable characters, they don't matter to your struggle, and it will rarely benefit you to be generous. But I felt myself wanting to be anyway. The game does a great job of evoking my hero complex, and it pains me when I genuinely can't help the people I meet. This is expanded upon by the character bios. Each character has a personality and a brief biography that builds the longer they manage to survive. They comment on situations that occur and express their needs and feelings to you through their own section at the bottom right of the screen. The photographs used to depict the characters are of real people too, which lends further to the game's gritty realism and the player's ability to relate. Light shines in through the cracks in your home base during the day, and fires rage in the rundown areas at night where you can send a character out to scavenge. I can't speak highly enough for the art style used, and whilst it's no AAA budget spectacle, there's a depressing charm to the simplicity of it all. That's not to undermine the work that went into the design, mind you. Don't come to this game looking for a feel-good moment. It's incredibly bleak, and that seems to be the intention. As for the feel, it's a very simple, clean interface utilising the point-and-click method of movement and actions for characters. Characters move smoothly through the environments and interact with/retrieve objects quickly, without fail, and thus far I've encountered no problems aside from one game crash on my most recent session. A rare happenstance, but as it occurred after a difficult scavenging run, it was certainly frustrating. The lack of ability to save whenever you'd like, checkpoints occur at the beginning of each day, is what made the aforementioned crash a little more of a nuisance, knowing I'd have to perform the chores of the day once more, as well as hope to have as successful a scavenging run as I did before. All in all, a few minor glitches only slightly muddy the otherwise great look and feel of this War of Mine. Your characters begin the game inside of their home base on the first day. Armed with a workbench, you have to salvage the various bits of wreckage in the house, indicated by a hand icon, and several other icons to indicate other actions dependent on your equipment. For example, once you craft a crowbar, you can open the wardrobes and lock doors in the house, or with a disposable lockpick, and the icons show you when you're able to do so. At the workbench, you'll use the materials to craft beds, stoves, plants, metal working stations, amongst many other useful items in order to increase your likelihood of survival. Your characters will become hungry, depressed, tired, cold, and sick throughout their stay in the shelter, and it's your job to prioritise what to take care of. The problem for you is in the limited resources you're able to gather strictly from the home, leading to the division of the day's tasks. From morning to night you're in crafting mode, creating what you need and dealing with your survivors' situations. At night you'll be picking one person to go out somewhere and scavenge, whilst the other characters can be set to sleep in bed if you have one, or guard to protect against looters in the night. You'd probably expect to have your character sent off screen and return with randomised goods, but not in this case. No, in this case, you accompany your scavenger, limited in their bag space, to control the retrieval of goods from the area you've chosen to raid. The goods that can be found in the salvage spots are listed in the descriptions of the destinations before entering, so it's important to know whether or not you need food or materials more, and if the danger is worth the risk. The character you take out can be wounded and killed by other people as quickly as you came. You always have to weigh up your chances against the goods you truly need. If wounded, even without a killing blow, you can bleed and die back at home without medication and or bandages and lots of rest. But if that's your best scavenger, the next runs will be much less effective and you could all die from starvation. There are so many ways to fail at this game, but there is a strategy to winning. A strategy I'm only just beginning to figure out after a few days of pure failure. I praise the game for its simple approach to retrieval and crafting, as once you know what to do, you'll get in the habit of doing it, but some might be turned off by the learning curve without tutorials to teach you the initial tips of surviving. Also, combat seems a bit unfair. With whatever it is you have equipped, be it a knife you've crafted at the metalworking station, or your bare fists, attacking enemies is pretty much luck of the draw as you click them to attack and they somehow manage to counter at almost every turn. The addition of a counter technique would be appreciated, or at least a clearer indication as to when the prime opportunity would be to strike. Make either of those additions and I'll find the combat absolutely fine, if not at all complex. You can also barter with the merchant that visits from time to time in the day, and embark on random events to help people that seek your aid, or refuse them all outright and play it safe. You can also barter with the merchant that visits from time to time in the day, and embark on random events to help people that seek your aid, or refuse them all outright and play it safe. Currency is no longer a thing, so you'll have to think about what it is you don't need in exchange for what you do from the merchant, or sometimes from others outside during the night. The crafting benches can be upgraded, as can the stove, to provide more options to be more efficient. The stove, for example, will require less fuel to cook food. These upgrades are very expensive in material costs, but can lead to vital improvements that save your life in the long run. It's all very trial and error. The game is firstly about survival, and secondly about the choices you make. Characters may react badly to the refusal of aid to NPCs, or the killing of innocents for the sake of goods, and that can lead to them leaving your home or even committing suicide out of depression. It can seem a little too black and white at times, but then the lives they're leading are survival of the fittest, and you can imagine morality would have much less of a place in that world. The game doesn't shy away from the depiction of at-war civilian life, and I appreciate that. My biggest issue comes in the form of space when scavenging. I understand the design choice behind it. Only allow one scavenger with limited bag space to create a sense of desperation, forcing you to choose the items you need to take back rather than ransacking an entire place dry in one go. My problem with that is it's a little too limited. I see no real reason in the realm of reality that, with a home filled with 4 survivors, we can't send out 2 on a scavenging run and leave 2 to guard the base. Even if the limitation was that the 2 scavengers had to go to the same place, that'd be fine. If not that solution, maybe expand the bag space for the characters. It's very restrictive to the point of being off-putting at times, despite my willingness and want to push through it and succeed. It should also be noted that I haven't fully found everything in a game, and I'm not sure if there's already a way to expand your bag space. One final issue I have is the progression of time. On a day when there's a lot to do, you'll find you might need all of that time, but on a slow day you might want to speed up the clock. The only problem there is that you can't. You can end the day and go straight to the night scavenging run, but you can't speed up time in the way that you can in, say, The Sims. It's a minor grievance, but I'd like to see 11-Bit Studios make that addition, as it'd be a welcome one to me personally, so that I don't miss an event in the day because I decided to skip straight to the night. This war of mine is a unique experience I've never been fed before. Simple but effective gameplay mechanics combined with a day and night cycle fraught with dangerous exploration make for fun to be had if you can handle the emotional impact. Hampered only by personal issues with the combat, time management and item retrieval when scavenging, I highly recommend this to those of you with the patience to work out a way to win. Those looking for instant gratification won't find it here, but if you're willing to put the time in, you'll feel a true sense of accomplishment at the end of the tunnel. Anyway, that's enough from me. I've been David Game. We are now at mygameslounge.com, where you can find all of this content, and I gave this war of mine a a 7.5. Now remember that scores are not indicative of how the game really is and plays, so if you just skip to the score and you haven't read the review or you haven't listened to the video review, please do, so you can understand exactly why I recommend this game to you, why you should buy it, and why I feel it is a very unique experience. Anyway, that's enough from me. Be sure to take a seat in the lounge sometime with us. And of course, I'm David Game, signing off. Bizzle.